Welcome back. This is Shah. I've been thinking a lot lately about how women in our culture want freedom, but they don't want to pay for it or accept the duties that come with the responsibility of freedom. And I found a few clips and a thread that I think help show what's going on here. So let's take a look at them. So here's one from a woman. It says realizations about dating in 2023 as a woman. Let's see what she has to say.
Do you want to know one of the saddest realizations I recently had? Was that as a liberal woman, it is really hard to find a man who is willing to play the more traditional masculine role in the relationship in today's day and age, who is not a conservative. A man who wants to pay on the first date, who wants to open your door, who has that want and desire to take care of you and to provide.
Let's pay attention to what she said. It wasn't just about paying on the first date or splitting it. She mentioned taking care of her and providing. So there's a lot more that comes with that.
Who is not a conservative. And obviously, as a liberal woman, I do want to be respected for my independence. And I do want to have my own autonomy in the relationship and not be confined or conform to the traditional female homemaker, childbearing role. And most of the men that I've dated who do have that more natural provider masculinity about them are normally conservative. So I don't really know what to do because I don't want to compromise my morals and values just to find a man. But am I asking to have my cake and eat it too?
We see her struggling to understand what's going on in the situation or why she can't find someone that she's actually attracted to that wants to put up with her ideal way of living. You know, she has her morals and values that she believes in, but then she expects somebody else to come and take care of her and fund those morals and values and provide for her so she can live freely however she decides to, even though she's not paying for it. She wants a man who's traditional, but then she herself doesn't want to be traditional in the feminine way. She doesn't want to have kids or worry about having kids or being someone who takes care of kids. She doesn't want to play the role of a homemaker. She wants autonomy, probably also to work and make her own money, you know, and this is where we're going to get my money's my money, but your money is our money. And at least she acknowledges at the end that she's trying to have her cake and eat it too. But it's just funny that she's even looking for a man to live up to a traditionally masculine role when those roles are quote unquote part of the patriarchy. So why is it okay when it has something to do that benefits her, but it's not okay when she has to play her part? There was another clip that I saw, and it's of a couple being interviewed that also has this same sentiment. So let's check that out. This one is from the Desirable Truth podcast.
When you guys go out, who typically pays for the dates?
Pays for the dates? She would look at me crazy if I don't pay for the date.
So 99%.
The only time she would pay for a date would be like a significant event, like a birthday, an anniversary, or
just special occasion.
See, not even the anniversary. It's funny, she says no to that, but okay, birthdays, maybe it's his birthday, she finally picks up one of the tabs.
Big event in my life when it comes to my career.
You guys live together now?
No, we're pretty much always together though.
So when you do eventually move in, are you gonna go 50-50?
She already made it clear. The man got to pay the house. So, at the end of the day, I got to support, from a household standpoint.
So you want him to pay all the bills?
That's how I grew up.
So if he's gonna do that, does he get it whenever he wants it from you?
Yeah, or whenever I want it.
And he's basically talking about, does he get to sleep with you? You know, since he's paying all the bills and providing, does he get to, whenever he feels like it, whenever he's in the mood, regardless of you, is that the payment back, basically? Like, what's the exchange here is what he's trying to find out. And she even kind of stumbles a little bit on that. You know what I mean? She's like, yeah, but then she's like, well, or if I want it too, you know what I mean? So it's not exactly a yeah, it's also, well, I got to be in the mood also.
Okay. So what do you bring to the table, essentially?
Me. Just me.
What'd she say?
No, I bring a lot to the table. He knows that. Like, I'm not like a bum. I have my own career. I do make my own money, but I do.
See, there it is. I have my own career. I make my own money. And I want to keep my own money. But him, the man, is expected to pay for her and then allow her to spend most of the hours of the day out, essentially dividing the household chores, because then he's going to go to work, still pay for everything, the rent, the mortgage, all the bills, car insurances, paying for the dates, eating out, everything. But since she's been working all day too, I mean, then they got to go home and, you know, split all the home stuff and all the everything else that comes with that. So, because yeah, they're both tired from working, but the part that she's missing here is that she's not paying for anything or contributing to half of the mortgage, half of the house down payment or whatever it is, which is not fair.
You expect him to take care of me.
You want to have kids?
I mean, if there was a problem, like he became broke tomorrow, I could take care of us.
You know, and it's like, okay, if he became broke tomorrow and take care of us, how long would that last? I mean, if you hear her prior statements, she said, I grew up in a house where the man provided, and that's her expectation, and that's what she wants out of a man. So if he goes broke tomorrow or he loses his job, there's a timer on that. You know what I mean? Where there isn't a timer on him providing. That's ostensibly supposed to go for the rest of their lives, you know. And for them, if it's her paying, I mean, that's not going to last more than a few months, maybe 6 months max, and it's over. Then it's like you're not playing your role as a traditionally masculine man, and it's time to go.
Yes, I have a 12-year-old now.
And she's a single mom, so he's not providing just for her. He's also providing, you know, somewhat for the 12-year-old child. You know, it could be she's getting child support from the other man.
How do you approach this relationship knowing that she already had a child?
When we first started dating, she made it clear. So I knew if I wanted to take things further, I would have to accept that, and most importantly, be able to take ownership of that in the future.
Take ownership of that in the future, you know, and the way he's saying it, I mean, this is playing into traditional masculinity. Him saying take ownership and all this, coming to save the day, coming to provide and protect, where probably the first guy didn't. You know, he's been programmed into that growing up, you know. But the sad part about this is that she doesn't have to adhere to whatever her end of the deal is supposed to be for him, if his end of the deal is supposed to be protecting and providing. And they ask the question, you know, what are you bringing to the table? And the first thing is it's just me. And then if it's past me and there's nothing else there, she's not providing anything financially, does he get sex whenever he wants it? And she stumbles on that question.
I want to move forward with a relationship, so I took the sacrifice as well as we talked about it.
You know, and you know, it would appear he's if he keeps going down this path with her, and you know, I used to work at the child support office for 5 years, and I'd see a lot of cases come across my desk, and there were many cases where I'd see, you know, even women that had like 2 other kids from 2 other dads, and then all of a sudden I had this guy in front of me, and now he has a kid with her. This is kid number 3, and now he's at the child support office. You know what I mean? So it's like when I see this guy, what I see is that she already has the one kid from the other relationship. There's a high chance they move in together. He's providing, doing all his stuff. They have a child together. And then when that kid is like 2 or 3, that's it. Their relationship's over. Now she's back out here with 2 kids from 2 different single dads. And he's wondering like, man, I did everything I was supposed to. I did everything she told me to. And he gets a raw end of the deal. When you look at both of these clips, you see that both of the women want a traditional man, but they don't want to provide their end of the bargain, which is a traditional woman. And that's fine, but we now, okay, the world's different. Women don't want to play that role anymore. But the hypocrisy comes in where they're still expecting the man to play a traditional role, but they're not adjusting their role in order to alleviate some of the burden from the man. And you see that here clearly as both of them want a man who is going to provide and finance the lifestyle of freedom and autonomy for them, but they're not contributing. Another thing that I found, you know, while I was just scrolling subreddit is I follow the r/Pakistan for him. So Pakistan is a place that's complete on the other side of the planet and has a completely different culture from the US. Okay. And I found a thread about a woman who is looking to get married in Pakistan, and she's afraid her marriage standards are too high. Let's go ahead and read that together. Okay, so here it is. Am I setting a very high standard for marriage as a woman? And just to keep in mind, the marriage typically, I mean, as time has gone on, there is a form of dating, but marriage typically is arranged marriages. This means the families are more involved. There is a proper courting process that needs to take place in order for a marriage to happen. Usually involves both of the families. It involves a formal request from one family to the other. Usually one parent goes to the other and requests like either the daughter's hands, or they'll basically send an offer over, and they'll send an offer over that, hey, this person's interested in marrying. And the other family will usually, want to know about who the suitor is, and they'll ask for a kind of resume, basically, and all the stuff that, I mean, there's got to be stuff that fills out this thing, and it's what do you do? What's your education? What do you do? Can you provide for my daughter and the future children in a way that makes sense for us to want to be able to marry our daughter to you? So those are the traditions of over there. But let's see how feminism manifests on the other side of the planet. Am I setting a very high standard for marriage as a woman? Hear me out. As a Pakistani woman who's looking for someone to marry, I've realized that the only norm for marriage standard here is that the man doesn't cheat / isn't abusive. I think that standard is so low. Of course, unless someone is marrying someone they've dated before, in which case other things come into play like how kind, affectionate they are, etc. Anyways, I've worked hard my whole life to get an education, and I don't plan to press pause on it. I've also always wanted to have a job, which I know I will have even after I get married. So, this is a woman who's coming up in a newer generation, and feminist ideas are something she leans into. And it's funny when she says the only marriage standard here is that the man doesn't cheat or isn't abusive. That's not true. The other standards for marriage is that the man traditionally, and which is expected, especially over there, is that the man has to be able to provide. So the provisioning and the protecting aspect of this is one of the standards for even a marriage to happen. Otherwise, the family is going to say no way. So she obviously comes from a household that's probably a little bit more liberal. They're probably a little higher up in the social class, or in class in general in terms of money, probably middle to upper class. Now that that's out of the way, I was talking to someone considering them for marriage and realized I may have set an impossible standard. So see, this is going to be very similar to the cake and eat it too woman, because she's kind of realizing that she set a standard that she's not able to find except in quote unquote conservative men, who she doesn't like because she doesn't agree with their beliefs, and they probably don't agree with hers. So she's having trouble there. Look, I don't want him to be abusive or a cheater, but I'd also want him to help out in households since we'll both be working. I just mean occasionally doing the dishes or helping out in cleaning. I find that absurd, but apparently I'm the one with the Western mindset. I've seen no man in my life ever meet this criteria, and so far men I've met also find it hard to say yes to this. I'd love some advice. Should I just choose to be a housewife and let go of everything I've worked for, or be a full-time working woman as well as housewife? Or should I look for men somewhere else? She's saying she's having trouble finding men who want to take this deal. And especially if you're a guy in Pakistan, I mean, the ability to find a, traditional woman who's going to fulfill the role of being housewife, caretaker to the children, especially when they're young, is a lot easier than it is here in the U.S. So they're looking at her who has this education and she wants to pursue a career, and then they're looking at other women who, well, they're going to be the traditional housewife for them. And the decision most of them are making is, we're going to marry the woman that's going to be the traditional housewife. And what she's missing out here is she didn't mention anything about, well, I'm going to be working, so I'm going to put half the money down on the mortgage for the house. I'm going to be paying for half the kids' expenses. I'm going to be paying for, food and this and this and that. If she comes into the marriage negotiation and says that, then maybe she might find a guy who might be more willing to take the deal. But for some reason, it's just about, hey, I want you to help with the chores while I have my job. But there's no mention about whether or not she's contributing to the household finances or not. So I just think it's interesting to compare these different experiences from people on other sides of the planet and see how these same sort of concepts affect them, and it gives us another view and perspective and look into how feminism and the clash of feminism with traditional roles is manifesting. Ultimately, I think however people want to live their lives is fine, but you need to take responsibility for the parts of your life that give you extra autonomy. So on the one hand, like the cake and eat it too woman, you want to have your own career, this and this and that. But then you also want a guy that's going to be a traditional guy who's going to provide for you and pay your way through while you get to live this soft safety net life of having someone pay all your bills, and then you get to dabble around in career here or maybe make a lot of money but keep your money. And it just doesn't seem like a great deal for the men, And in the other video, the guy asked if they were going to go 50-50, Personally, as a guy that worked at child support, I've read thousands of divorce orders as it was part of my job. And most of the people who were on the losing end of that were provider, protector men who were the breadwinners, and then they got divorced, and then they had to pay the high spousal, the high child support orders, just because they were the ones making the money. I've always been partial to 50-50, you know what I mean? Because then if the divorce happens, it's smoother, but there are viewpoints that say 50-50 doesn't work because ultimately both parties do need to be in their traditional roles in order for the goal of creating a household with kids to work in the first place. Anyways, let me know what you think down in the comments below. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and we'll see you on the next one.